On the day of his middle school graduation, Mirai stood at the top of the building, and only darkness clouded his mind. Having lived his life without any happiness, he decided to passionately hug the ground. He nosedived to make a somersault into the cement, but an angel caught him, and he thought he was being taken to heaven. However, the angel introduced herself as Nase, and she's glad to have saved him from becoming a pancake. Mirai struggles to believe this reality and sees his reflection floating in the window. He still wants to be made a flat pancake, having already given up ever since his brother and parents died 7 years ago, and when his aunt and uncle took him in. He would watch as his parents enjoyed actual time with their kids, while he was just locked up in their trash room. He became nothing but a tool for them, and slept every single day in that room alone shivering. He thought there was no longer any hope in his future, but Nase flew him away and told him she's a special rank angel. She has the powers to give him everything in this world, whether he wants freedom or love. Mirai definitely thinks he ate something expired or actually hit the ground and he's entered nirvana, but the angel tells him to start with freedom. Since he's been nothing but a slave his entire life, she offers him wings to fly and be free everywhere in this world. Additionally, if he wants love, she can summon a magical crystal arrow, and whoever is hit by it will fall instantly in love with him. Either the wings or arrows she can give him as a last salvation. But Mirai doesn't want to choose, so he commands her to give him both of them. Nase tells him she will, and says it was just tradition to phrase it like he can choose one. Mirai has had enough of this trip and decides to go back to hugging the ground. But Nase throws the magical circles to give him an armband and a necklace. He doesn't need to worry, though, because only people who also have angels will be able to view them. This is going to be his life until a new god is chosen, but she tells him to just try flying already. With a single thought of flying, his wings materialize from thin air, and he takes off at super speed towards the sky. He struggles to control his speed through the clouds, but eventually makes it above them and sees the sunset. All night he spent flying, thinking it felt more amazing to fly than he ever imagined, and began crying. He makes it back to the city and thinks there might be some hope to live after all. Today was St. Patrick's Day in Tokyo, and he remembered giving his childhood love the 4-leaf clover. While sitting and looking at the sky, Nase comes again and tells him he can steal anything he would ever want with his super speed. And with the arrow, he can make anyone fall in love with him and do anything. Mirai doesn't understand how she can call herself an angel since she's preaching the actions of a devil. But Nase tells him devils don't exist. If anything, they're inside the hearts of evil people like his uncle and aunt who killed people. Mirai wonders what she's talking about, and she reveals that his uncle and aunt were the ones who killed his parents. This entire time, he'd been bullied by them and treated like a slave. Mirai's mind breaks, thinking the angel must be lying to claim they killed his family. But Nase tells him to use the arrow to find out for himself. He flies back home, and his aunt tells him to hurry up and move from the doorway already. Mirai wants to ask her something, but she tells him to shut up and hurry up. He points his arm towards her and releases white liquid directly on her chest. Sorry, I meant fires an arrow directly into her chest. When she gets up, his aunt rushes towards him and is ready to develop plot with her massive cannons. But Mirai pushes her off. He asks her if they were the ones to end his family, and she breaks down and blames it all on her husband. His uncle enters the room and sees his wife crying, but she reveals everything. Her husband is the one who rigged the car to blow just to steal his family's fortune, and his memories of that day flash in his head. His parents had went to drive his brother to school, and he was going to get his project ready, but when his father turned the car on, it exploded. They continue wrestling, and his wife reveals that it was all for the insurance money. The thought of them doing this for money breaks Mirai's mind, and he says they should have been the ones to die instead. His aunt hears this, and the next thing he knew, his aunt wanted to know what nirvana was like. Nase explains that this is the power of his red arrow. If someone has done something that deserves trying to meet the Buddha, then they will meet the Buddha if he commands it. He collapses, realizing how easily people die. He's still alive after all of this, and he remembers the memories his mother left him with. When he showed her his family portrait, his mom told him that everyone is born with the goal of finding happiness and trying to attain greater happiness, so she wanted him to live a happy life. At that moment, it became clear to Mirai. He must try to keep living to reach happiness, and the angel tells him that he's right, and she's here to make sure she can help him become happy. She finally introduces herself as Nase, and she's going to be his personal angel. A few days later, Mirai sits in the hotel. He's broke and couldn't afford a room, so he used the arrow to get the staff to let him stay here. Even if he can steal everything through this power, none of it would make him happy. He wants to have an ordinary sense of happiness, but first he needs to start making money. Nase tells him to end his uncle and kids to take back all the money they made off him. However, Mirai can't handle the idea of seeing all the gore like the previous time, so instead, he can use the other white arrow she granted him. This white arrow instantly kills people peacefully, and she tries to explain the reason behind all these abilities. God has become weak after a long life of attempting to make Earth a better place. He appointed 13 angels to find humans who will be capable of serving as the new god, and Nase was excited to finally allow Mirai to be happy. They had a time limit of 999 days, and they all set off. What in the f***ing Mirai Nikki is this shit? After listening to all of this, Mirai, wait, even his f***ing name is Mirai. On the TV, he sees a person being followed by an angel, and sees that he's manipulated 5 women to fall in love with him. Mirai wonders if there's a way to protect himself from being shot, and Nase goes on to explain the rules of the arrow. The only way for someone to avoid an arrow is by flying faster using the wings. Additionally, the effects of red arrows expire after 33 days, and you can only shoot a person once. Finally, you can at most shoot 14 arrows within 33 days, which is probably what the person on TV did. Inside a car, plot develops. I mean a lot of plot develops. I mean way too much plot develops. They beg him for some protein shake, but as he thinks this life is amazing, some Mega Man suit in armor opens the car door and points a white arrow at him, instantly ending him. He takes his red arrow and flies away. The next day, Mirai reads the news about the guy dying, and the angel brings his body back to heaven. Luda, the angel carrying him, is glad that this person perished. While walking through the city, Nase congratulates him on getting into his top high school, and thinks he must be really smart for shooting his uncle with a red arrow to confess. She tries to cheer him up but realizes this guy snorts depression instead of copium, so she asks him why he's not as happy as he should be. He reveals that he's mostly scared about the death of the other god candidate. Inside the center of the city, a bank robbery is taking place, but Superman's ripoff appears to save the day, Metropoliman. What a f***ing name. He begins flying above the police, shooting them all with red arrows, and claims that he is here to save the day. He faces off with the criminal and approaches him, vanishing right next to the person to block their gun. He shoots him with the red arrow, and the criminal agrees to turning himself in. His comrade, however, attempts to end Metropoliman, but he ends up firing at his own friend instead. The criminal fires the shotgun, and Metropoliman vanishes before the bullets reach him, readying a white arrow and ending the criminal. Nase realizes that his angel must be a special rank, and Metropoliman goes on to announce that there are 12 enemies that are aiming for him. He's already defeated one, so he announces on every television station that he's looking to end the other 11. Mirai commands Nase to disappear before Metropoliman sees her. He tries to blend in with the crowd and heads home. Later that day, he asks for Nase to revoke his god candidate status. Even though she saved his life, he doesn't want to be killed by Metropoliman. However, she reveals that taking away his arrow and wings would end his life. After all, those wings and arrow were given to him only because he gave up on everything. It was God's command to only select candidates ready to give up on life. She tells him that special ranks angels give wings, red